We all know about drugs and how addictive they can be, but what about how addiction could be linked in our DNA? Well, addiction is the fact or condition of being addicted to a particular substance, thing, or activity. In this case, we're talking about an addiction to a substance. Addiction is also considered as a brain disease because drugs change the structure of the brain and how it functions. These changes can be long-lasting and create harmful behaviors in the addict. How does addiction occur, you ask? Well, think about how we talk to one another. When you are talking to someone, you are putting out information while the other person is listening and taking in the information. Brain cells communicate the exact same way. The neurotransmitters are the ones talking and the receptors are the ones listening and taking in the information. However, when drugs get involved, they start interfering with the way the neurotransmitters communicate with one another and can eventually cause them to shut down from the overflow of unnatural transmitter information. This creates a problem as the person then feels the need to do drugs to get the transmitters going and to feel what they identify as normal. People who are addicted not only hurt themselves, but they also hurt the people around them. Addiction is known as the disease that makes you too selfish to see the havoc you created or care about the people whose lives you have shattered. This is because drugs are a choice that people make. Whether it was for fun, out of curiosity, you've fallen down a steep hill and you're now down a dangerous path. The abuser starts to be driven by their craving for the high, and the more they use, the more addicted they become and try to make themselves feel like there's a greater cause for their addiction. The addicts will start to use all the money they can find to get their high, just to feel normal again. They start lying and going behind your back. They start being secretive about what they're doing and where they go. If you confront them, they most likely become defensive and could become aggressive. They could go as far as becoming abusive. If a person is involved in a relationship with a drug addict, then they can begin to take the blame for their loved one, make excuses for that person, and suffer the consequences for that person. The scariest thing to me is that addiction can literally be running in our DNA. Now, don't take this as an excuse and say, well, my uncle was addicted to heroin, so I can't help that I'm addicted to something too. Because if you knew that, you should have known to say no to that drug and to stay away from that because you're at a high risk of that addiction. Genetics being linked to higher addiction chances is known as genetic predisposition. Genetic predisposition means that if your family members are addicted to drugs, not only does it increase the chance of children growing up around these adults to try drugs, but it also increases the addiction possibility. Not just in genetics, but also how close the children are to that constant user. If you or a family member knows the history of addicts in your family, please make sure that you know that. Know that you can stop something before it starts.